Applying a transition between two clips. Let's apply transitions between a few clips. For the purposes of exploration, you will break the less is best rule and try several options in one sequence. As you go through these steps, play the sequence regularly to view the results. Continue working with the previous sequence called transitions. Move the timeline playhead to the edit point between clip 1 and clip 2 on the timeline, and then press the equal sign 2 or 3 times to zoom in fairly close. If your keyboard does not have the equal key, use the navigator at the bottom of the timeline panel to zoom. You can also create a custom keyboard shortcut for this purpose. Drag the dip to white transition effect from the dissolve group in the effects panel onto the edit point between clip 1 and clip 2. The effect will snap to one of 3 positions. Be sure to line up the effect with the middle of the edit, not the end of the first clip or beginning of the second clip. The dip to white transition effect gradually builds to a completely white screen, which obscures the cut between the first clip and the next. In the effects panel, click the disclosure triangle for the slide group of video transitions to display its contents. Drag the push transition onto the edit point between clip 2 and clip 3 in the sequence. Play through the transition to see the result, and then position the playhead on the edit between clip 2 and clip 3 by pressing the up arrow key on your keyboard. The up and down arrow keys are shortcuts to move the timeline playhead to the previous or next edit on targeted tracks. Click the Push Transition Effect icon in the timeline panel once to select it, and open the Effect Controls panel. Remember, if you can't see a panel, it will always be listed in the window menu. Change the direction of the clip from west to east to west by clicking in the small direction control triangle to the right of the AB thumbnail at the top left of the Effect Controls panel. Each small white triangle changes the direction for the push transition effect. Hover the pointer over a triangle to see a tooltip describing the option. In the timeline panel, play through the transition to see the result. In the effects panel, expand the 3D motion group in the video transitions category. Drag the flip over transition effect onto the edit point between clip 3 and clip 4. Review the sequence by playing it from beginning to end. Having watched this sequence, you can probably see why it is a good idea to use transitions with restraint. Let's try replacing an existing transition effect. Drag the split transition from the slide group onto the existing push transition effect icon between clip 2 and clip 3. The new transition effect replaces the old one, taking the duration of the old effect. Select the split transition effect icon on the timeline so its settings are displayed in the Effect Controls panel. Using that panel, set border width to 7 and anti-aliasing quality to medium to create a thin black border at the edge between the two clips. The anti-aliasing method reduces potential flicker when the line animates during the effect. Play through the transition to view the result. The best way to do this is probably to click a little earlier in the sequence to watch the video leading up to the transition. If the video does not play smoothly during transition effects, press the Return on Mac or Enter key on Windows to render. Wait for the rendering to complete, and try again. Video transitions have a default duration, which can be set in seconds or frames. It's frames by default. If the default duration is set in frames, the effective playback duration of a transition effect will change depending on the sequence frame rate. The default transition duration can be changed in the timeline section of the Preferences panel. Choose Premiere Pro, Preferences, Timeline on Mac, or Edit, Preferences, Timeline on Windows. Depending on your geographic region, you may see a default video transition duration setting of 30 frames or 25 frames. This is a 24 frames per second sequence, but this does not matter if you change the video transition default duration option to 1 second. Do so now and click OK. Existing transition effects keep their existing settings when you change the preference, but any future transitions you add will have the new default duration. The duration of an effect can dramatically change its impact, and later in this lesson, you will learn about adjusting the timing of transitions.